To the people of Fort McMurray, know that even though things may look difficult and uncertain and at times perhaps almost hopeless, know that you are not alone. Canadians are standing with you. You can lean on us and you can count on us. Our government will do everything it can to get you back home safely just as soon as that's possible. I also want to share the news that effective this July, following royal assent to the budget, more people in Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, and in southern interior BC will be getting additional help from the federal government as we add them to the list of areas where residents will have access to extended employment insurance benefits. This brings to 15 the number of regions where extended benefits are available.
When energy prices were very high, very few Albertans qualified for benefits because unemployment here was lower and earnings were higher than in other parts of the country. But given the oil price shock, we knew that these rules needed to change. And as I said at the time, your government deserves credit for extending benefits for many Albertans for up to 20 weeks. It was an important step in the right direction, but as we discussed then, a little bit more needed to be done. So today, in coming to Alberta to show your support to the people of Fort McMurray and to extend EI benefits to Edmontonians and the people who live in the surrounding communities, your government is making an important contribution to our province's economic recovery. And let me just say, another important contribution to our province's economic recovery.
The first thing you notice is the smoke, is the haze, is the smell in the air that even from the airport, which was untouched, you can tell that the scale and the scope of what just happened. And then as you fly over initially, you notice the blackened forest that surrounds Fort McMurray. Every section of the boreal forest around it is scarred with black stripes or entire swaths of burned out trees and hillsides. Great leaps that the fire must have made across the river that lead you to imagine what it must have looked like as it was burning at its peak. And the idea that there were firefighters rushing towards that blaze as the entire world must have seemed on fire is amazing. And then you notice a downtown core that, other than being oddly deserted and immobile, is largely untouched. Then you notice neighborhoods that stand and with discarded children's stores on the children's toys on the front lawn that were vacated quickly but peacefully and perfectly fine. And then you go a little further and you see devastation. Streets, blocks, houses gone. Burnt out with nothing but an empty hole where the foundations were. And you think about the lives of everything but lives lost that are going to need to rebuild. And then as we went through, there was a moment where we saw on a sidewalk a little plastic child scooter just standing on the sidewalk. And the firefighters and first responders with us said, no, nobody's touched that since the evacuation. It just sits there in the middle of a sidewalk in a completely burnt out neighborhood. And it looks sad and it looks forlorn. But the one thing that I realized is, unlike so many images we see around the world, that little plastic scooter, whatever little boy or girl was using that just before the evacuation, they're safe. They're alive. They're being sheltered by friends or family or kind strangers where they are with their family right across the country. And we know that, yes, this was a terrible disaster to befall this community. But at the same time, there is hope, there is strength, there is a will and there is the capacity to rebuild, to build a stronger future, to work together to build greater opportunities for each other, the way Canadians always have.
Prime Minister, you've had a chance to see firsthand the destruction of the wildfires visited on Fort McMurray and neighbouring communities. As we've discussed, it is truly heartbreaking. But in this crisis, we've seen once again the extraordinary resilience of Albertans. We've also witnessed that profound spirit of giving and support that defines what it means to be an Albertan and a Canadian. We look out for one another, and when our fellow citizens are in need of help, as the Prime Minister has said, we have each other's backs. So let me also take a moment to thank all Canadians in every part of this country for their outpouring of support for the people of Fort McMurray. Your help, your donations, and your prayers are profoundly meaningful to us all in this very, very difficult time, and we will never forget them.